I've been doing them for the last 3 weeks, where I just share like a word or revelation that's been impressed on my heart, and hopefully it'll confirm some things for you, encourage some things for you, all that good stuff. So again, I'm the author of Stories for the Urban Soul, which is a compilation of short stories depicting Black characters navigating everyday life. Has a spiritual lens to it, so encouraging, hopeful, spirit-filled, kind of like a Stories for the or a chicken soup for the soul for Black people. So I just released this year. I have 2 other books that I self-published: How to Overcome Heartbreak, Recovering from Misguided Love, where I share my story of a breakup will help me heal and help other people in similar situations. The sequel is How to Overcome Heartbreak, Stories That Heal, and I interview 7 other women and 4 other men and share their stories and more from me. Both of those are available on Amazon. This one is available on my website, NicoleDMiller.com. So I also do a monthly newsletter that you can sign up for if you email me your email address or DM me your email address. And my email is NicoleDMiller1983@gmail.com. And I have a weekly blog that you can subscribe to called BetterThanWine.net. So it's interesting because I actually got started writing, doing blogging, and it turned into books. So now I'm doing books. So getting back to the word of the day, I'm going to piggyback off of this week's blog that I published called Filling in the Gap. And basically this blog post was inspired by the weekend that I had. For those of you who don't know, I fractured my foot. And I'm like looking forward to the day where I'm no longer talking about this foot. But I fractured my foot. And so as a result, I am a little bit immobile. They have me wearing a boot. I'm going to spare you, okay, the boot right now. I have this on a tripod, so I can't like move my phone. But basically, I'm wearing a boot that's hopefully stabilizing it. I'm not driving right now. I'm laying off. I'm just doing the most. But I did have some events that I had to make this weekend. And so I had an honest moment. I like really freaked out about how am I going to get to these events? You know, like I can't drive, I live alone, how am I going to get to these events? A friend of mine suggested that I reach out to my community. Now you guys, I have the best community. I have the best tribe, I have the best people. I've been doing life with these people for a good 10 to 15 years, some 20 years. It's crazy, I'm not old, but I have been. And they've been very reliable. But when she suggested it, I cringed. I was just like, oh, I don't want to. Like, everything in me was like, I don't want to do it, you know? And I knew that it was just my personality. It was just about being humble, to depend on others. There's a humility when you're depending on others. And I was raised to be independent. Because I was the only child and my mom was a single parent, she just really instilled that in me to make sure that I would be, in her words, okay when she wasn't here. And so now that she's not here, I'm like really living that out. Like, okay, so I'm independent, I got my own, I do my own thing, Well, life happens, okay, and you do need others. And there are areas that I'm okay with depending on others, especially like relationally, emotionally with my girls. Like, I'll call somebody in a second if I'm going through something. But I think physical dependency on things that I'm used to doing for myself, like working or driving, those are things that I'm just kind of like, I don't know about asking you to help me with this. But I had no choice, so I did it. So, plus I felt like God was leading me to do it. That was really the thing. It was like, all right, here's an opportunity to trust God, right? And my people came through. I mean, some of them were a little bit tardy, but it worked in their favor because the events were tardy, so it worked out. Some of them who usually are tardy were like really on time, and I'm an on-time person, so for me that was like a miracle. I was like, oh, you on time? Okay, that's what's up. So I got through the events. You know, I actually canceled the last one because my foot was killing me, and it was just like, you just need to sit down, Nicole. Just sit down. But long story short, I had a host of emotions surface, and this is what I talk about in the blog post. You know, I really grieved. I grieved that this woman who, you know, raised me, and she passed a few years ago, was not there. She was the most dependent, reliable human being in my life from birth. And so I knew usually I would be calling her. She would be there. I wouldn't have to worry about a ride. I wouldn't have to worry about asking people. I wouldn't have to worry about if they were with me on time. Because that woman, she was like, if you early, you on time. And if you on time, you late. Okay? So I had all that coming up and surfacing. And writing is such a great outlet for me to release. Like even the novel that I'm in the process of editing, I release a lot of my grief from her passing, and some other stories. I just release different pockets of life, and it helps me to just get it out. So one of the things that I posed on my Instagram was like, how do you process your grief? Who do you go to? What are your tools that you use? For me, I've used working out. You guys know I love to work out, and right now that's like on the struggle bus because of my foot. So it's like it's in pockets that this is happening, in spurts I should say. But I love going out. I love being with my people. I love fashion. I love writing. I love all those things. Music. So these are all outlets, to keep your mental health and to heal and to grieve. So I posed that to you guys. I think one of the blessings writing has offered me is that it releases these hidden jewels in my heart, things that I may not even be aware of. Sometimes we're just going about our day and we're not conscious of all of the things, all of the messages, all of the deep heart desires that are running in the background, that are kind of like subconscious or on autopilot. But writing for me reveals that. Now what's interesting is that this weekend I had an event at the Jazz Fest, and I connected with another vendor, and she's an artist, and she literally was like painting while we were waiting for people to come. That's its own story. And I asked her, like, what inspires you? And she said, oh, I could be inspired by a song, I can be inspired by a movie. And that was interesting because that's how I'm inspired. But when I'm inspired, I write. When she's inspired, she paints. So my point is, because of the way that we're each wired in our individual talents and giftings, we could see the same thing, witness the same experience the same experience, and it manifests. The way that we interpret that and manifest our interpretation of that could be different. And our gifts and talents are tailored to our identity and our purpose. So my encouragement is to tap into your gifts and talents and use those things to help you release whatever trauma, pain, heartache, joy, encouragement, fun, love, the good things too. Because that's what writing does for me. That's what blogging does for me. And so thankfully, even though I was struggling this weekend emotionally, I still have my tribe. I still have my community. I still have people that stepped up in my life. And I think we all need that. It doesn't have to be as large as mine. But it's such a need. We were made to connect. We are human beings. So that's what I got for you guys. The name of the article is Filling the Gap, which just means that I had people that filled that hole, that space in my life. And I was able to simultaneously grieve, but also rejoice that I had those people. I made all of my events. I was blessed immensely by the people who stepped up and the people that wanted to but couldn't. So check out my blog site. I do have an event coming up. It's a pop-up. Let me look at that because I totally forgot to pull that up. At first I was up in the air if I was going to make it or not because of this foot. Like, I just didn't know. I didn't know if I had it in me, to be honest, but I really am going to do it. Well, be on the lookout. I don't have that information for you right now, but be on the lookout because I'm going to post it on my IG after this. So feel free to email me, NicoleDMiller1983@gmail.com. Feel free to check out my website, buy a book, NicoleDMiller.com. Feel free to do an Amazon review if you do buy the book, and there is a Kindle version that you can get. And you can sign up for my newsletter. You can sign up for the blog, betterthanwines.net.